Nate Brennan's hands shook as he lifted the telegram. 3 words changed everything. She's on today's stage. He crushed the paper, jaw clenched tight. 2 years since Sarah died. 2 years of raising Lucy alone. 2 years of a heart locked away like winter ground. Now, a stranger was coming to claim a place in his home. He wasn't ready. Would never be ready. But Lucy needed a mother. And a man did what needed doing, ready or not. The stage was due in an hour. He had 60 minutes left of the life he knew. Before we continue, I need to ask you something important. If this story touches your heart, if you want to see how Nate and this mysterious woman find their way through the darkness ahead, subscribe to this channel right now. Hit that button. And when you finish watching, comment below with the city you're watching from. I want to see how far this story travels, how many hearts it reaches across this country. Now let's see who stepped off that stage on Christmas Eve, 1879. December 23rd, 1879. The Wyoming wind cut through Copper Ridge like a promise of suffering. Nate stood at the window of Tucker's General Store, watching the eastern road. Behind him, Samuel Tucker sorted mail with deliberate slowness. "Stage is running late," Tucker said. "I noticed." "Weather coming in." "I know." Tucker set down a bundle of letters. "Nate, you sure about this mail-order bride? Ain't no small thing." Nate's reflection stared back at him from the frosty glass. 36 years old. Lines around his eyes that hadn't been there 3 years ago. Lucy needs a woman's guidance. Lucy needs her father not making decisions out of obligation. "Then it's lucky I ain't asking your opinion, Sam." The storekeeper raised his hands. "Fair enough. Just saying there's other ways. Helen Ashford's been widowed near a year now. She's made her interest plenty clear." Nate's jaw tightened. Helen Ashford. The banker's daughter. Beautiful, refined, wealthy. She'd brought Lucy a dress last month, had smiled at him with practiced charm. Everything proper, everything expected, everything that made his skin crawl. "Helen ain't the nurturing type," he said quietly. "She's respectable. So's a marble statue." Tucker laughed despite himself. "Fair point." The stage appeared then, a dark shape emerging from the white landscape. Nate's stomach dropped. This was real. Happening now. "Reckon I should head to the boarding house," Tucker said. "Mrs. Chen's expecting your bride there tonight. You bringing her out to the ranch tomorrow?" "Weather holds, yeah. And if it don't?" Nate didn't answer. He pulled on his coat and stepped into the cold. The stage pulled up in front of the hotel with a spray of slush. The driver, old Pete Morrison, climbed down stiffly. "Afternoon, Nate. Got a passenger for you." Nate's heart hammered. He stepped forward. The door opened. A woman's hand appeared first, gripping the frame. No gloves. Knuckles red from cold. Then a worn brown boot, the leather split at the toe. Then she emerged fully, and Nate felt the world tilt. She was thin. Too thin. Her dress was brown calico patched at the elbows and hem with mismatched fabric. The patches were neat, precise, but they couldn't hide the poverty. Her coat was threadbare wool missing buttons. She clutched a single carpet bag that looked like it had traveled 1,000 hard miles. But her face was pale, exhausted, but her eyes were steady. Dark eyes that met his without shame or apology. She was maybe 29, with dark hair pulled back in a simple bun, pretty in a worn-down way, like something beautiful that had been tested too hard. "Mr. Brennan." Her voice was soft but clear. "That's me. I'm Abigail Monroe, your bride." Behind him, Nate heard the general store door open, heard voices. The town was watching, always watching. "Miss Monroe." He tipped his hat, buying time. His mind raced. This wasn't what he'd expected. Her letters had been educated, refined. She'd mentioned teaching school in St. Louis. He'd assumed comfort, if not wealth. This was desperation. "I apologize for my appearance." she said quietly. The journey was difficult. You got other luggage coming? No, sir. This is all. One bag, one patched dress, boots that wouldn't last the winter. I see. Something flickered in her eyes. Hurt, maybe, or anger. But she lifted her chin. I can explain my circumstances if you'll allow me the courtesy of privacy. Privacy. Right. Half the town was gathering now. Mrs. Tucker had emerged from the store. The blacksmith's wife stood in her doorway. And there, walking toward them with deliberate grace, was Helen Ashford. Nathaniel? Helen's voice was honey and steel. Is this your mail-order bride, Miss Ashford? Helen circled Abigail, slowly studying her like livestock. My goodness, the journey must have been terribly hard on you, dear. It had its challenges, Abigail said evenly. I imagine it did. Helen's smile was poison. Nathaniel, might I speak with you privately? No. I really think... I said no. Nate picked up Abigail's bag. It was light, too light. Miss Monroe's had a long trip. She needs rest and a warm meal. He started toward the boarding house. Abigail followed. Behind them, Helen's voice carried. Well, how extraordinary. They didn't speak as they walked. The boarding house was 3 buildings down. Mrs. Chen, a Chinese widow who'd come west with the railroad workers, ran it with firm kindness. She met them at the door. Mr. Brennan, this must be Miss Monroe. Yes, ma'am. She needs a room for the night. 2 nights if the weather turns. Mrs. Chen studied Abigail with shrewd eyes. You hungry, girl? Yes, ma'am. Very. Come. I have stew. Mrs. Chen led Abigail inside. Nate stood in the doorway, uncertain. He should leave. Should go home to Lucy. Should think about what he'd just seen. Abigail turned back. Mr. Brennan, thank you. For not... She paused. For not turning me away immediately. We had an agreement, he said stiffly. Yes, we did. She met his eyes. I'm not a liar, Mr. Brennan. Everything I wrote you was true. I was a school teacher. My father was a respected merchant. But circumstances change. I lost everything. That doesn't change my character, or my ability to be what your daughter needs. She disappeared inside before he could respond. Nate stood in the snow, his mind churning. Then he mounted his horse and rode home. The Brennan Ranch sat 5 miles outside town, nestled in a valley with the creek running through it. The cabin was solid 2 rooms, and a loft logs chinked tight against the wind. Smoke rose from the chimney. Inside, Lucy would be waiting. Nate stabled his horse and walked to the cabin. Before he could open the door, it flew wide. Papa! Lucy launched herself at him. 6 years old, with her mother's blonde curls and his own gray eyes. Did she come? Did the bride come? Is she pretty? Is she nice? When can I meet her? Nate scooped her up. Slow down, little bird. One question at a time. But Papa... Inside. It's freezing. The cabin was warm. Their neighbor Martha Cooper sat by the fire knitting. She smiled. How'd it go? She arrived. And Nate set Lucy down. Martha, can you stay with Lucy another hour? I need to think. Martha's eyes narrowed. That bad? That complicated? Papa, what's wrong? Lucy's face crumpled. Doesn't she want to be my mama? Nate knelt. Hey, no, nothing like that. She's just tired from traveling. You'll meet her soon, I promise. Tomorrow. Maybe, if the weather holds. Martha stood. Lucy, help me make your papa some coffee. Let him warm up. Lucy ran to the kitchen. Martha moved close to Nate. What happened? She's poor, Martha. Real poor. Rags and 1 bag poor. So the town's gonna eat her alive. You should have seen Helen Ashford circling like a vulture. Helen Ashford's a bitter woman who can't stand seeing others find happiness. Helen's respectable. This girl—" He stopped. "I don't know what to do." Martha gripped his arm. "Nathaniel Brennan, you listen to me. Your Sarah didn't judge people by their bank accounts. She judged them by their hearts. What did you see in this girl's heart?" Nate was quiet. Then, pride, dignity. She didn't apologize for being poor, just explained circumstances change. Then give her a chance. Lucy. Lucy needs a mother who'll love her, not a society woman who'll teach her to look down on folks. You know what Sarah would say. Nate closed his eyes. Sarah. She'd been a merchant's daughter, but she'd married him anyway. A ranch hand with big dreams and empty pockets. Her father had disowned her. She'd never regretted it. "I'll bring her out tomorrow," he said, "if the storm holds off." Good man. That night, Nate lay in bed staring at the ceiling. In the other room, Lucy slept. Beside the bed, Sarah's Bible sat on the table. He hadn't opened it in 2 years. He reached for it now. The pages fell open to Proverbs. Sarah's handwriting marked the margin, "Charm is deceptive, and beauty is fleeting, but a woman who fears the Lord is to be praised. Remember this when you're tempted by appearances." She'd written that years ago during a dispute with her own mother about propriety. Sarah had always seen deeper. Nate closed the Bible carefully. Tomorrow he'd bring Abigail Monroe home. He'd give her a chance. Not because he wanted a wife he didn't. Not because he was ready to love again he wasn't. But because Lucy needed someone. And because something in Abigail's eyes had reminded him of Sarah. That fierce dignity. That refusal to be diminished. He fell asleep thinking of those steady, dark eyes. Christmas Eve dawned clear and cold. Nate rose before sunrise, did his chores, and prepared the cabin. He cleaned the spare room, small, barely more than a closet, but private. He put fresh linens on the narrow bed. He stoked the fire high. Lucy followed him everywhere. "Is she coming today? What's her name? What does she look like?" "Abigail, Miss Abigail, and you'll see soon enough." "Is she pretty like Mama was?" Nate paused. "She's different from your Mama, but she's got kind eyes. I think you'll like her." "Will she like me?" "Little bird, anyone who doesn't like you ain't worth knowing." Lucy beamed. At 9, Nate hitched the wagon. "Lucy, get your coat. We're going to town." The ride took an hour. Lucy chattered the whole way, asking questions Nate couldn't answer. What if Miss Abigail doesn't like horses? What if she can't cook? What if she's mean? "She won't be mean," Nate said. "How do you know?" "Because mean people don't survive hard times with dignity. They survive by becoming bitter. Miss Abigail ain't bitter." Lucy considered this. "Papa, are we giving her a home because she's poor?" "We're giving her a home because she's willing to be part of our family. The rest don't matter." "Mrs. Ashford says poverty is a sign of poor character." Nate's hands tightened on the reins. "Mrs. Ashford's wrong. Your Mama was poor when I met her. Her character was finer than any rich person I've known." "I miss Mama." "I know, little bird. I do too." They reached town. Nate parked outside the boarding house. "Lucy, I need you to be kind and gentle with Miss Abigail. She's had a hard journey. Can you do that?" "Yes, Papa." Mrs. Chen answered the door. "Mr. Brennan, Lucy, come in." They entered the warm parlor. Abigail sat by the window wearing the same patched dress. She'd clearly tried to improve her appearance. Her hair was neatly arranged, her face washed, but the poverty was still obvious. She stood when she saw them. Her eyes went immediately to Lucy. "Hello," she said softly. "You must be Lucy." Lucy stared. "Are you going to be my new Mama?" "Lucy," Nate said sharply. But Abigail smiled. "That's a fair question." She knelt to Lucy's height. "I'm hoping to be part of your family if you'll have me. But I know I can't replace your Mama. Nobody could. I'm just hoping I can be someone who loves you and takes care of you. Would that be all right?" Lucy studied her seriously. Then she stepped forward and touched one of the patches on Abigail's sleeve. "Did you sew this?" "I did." "It's very neat." "Thank you. I learned from my grandmother. She said if something's worth keeping, it's worth mending properly." "My mama used to say that too." Abigail's eyes met Nate's over Lucy's head. Something passed between them. Understanding, maybe. "Miss Abigail," Lucy said, "do you like Christmas?" "I love Christmas." "Good, because it's Christmas Eve and Papa said we can cut a tree this afternoon. Will you help us decorate it?" "I'd be honored." Nate cleared his throat. "Miss Monroe, if you're ready, we should head out. Storm's coming tonight." Abigail stood. "I'm ready." She picked up her carpet bag. "That all you got?" Lucy asked. "Lucy," Nate warned. "It's all right," Abigail said. "Yes, Lucy, this is all I have. I had to sell most of my things to pay my father's debts after he died. But I kept the important things. My grandmother's sewing kit, my mother's Bible, my teaching certificate. The things that matter aren't the things you can carry in a bag." Lucy nodded solemnly. "That's smart. Papa says the same thing." They walked to the wagon. Nate helped Abigail up. As he did, he noticed her hands. The nails were clean, but broken. The palms had calluses. These were hands that had worked hard. He climbed up beside her. Lucy sat between them. As they left town, Nate saw Helen Ashford standing outside the bank. She watched them pass, her face carved from ice. "That lady doesn't like me," Abigail said quietly. "That lady don't like anybody," Nate replied. Lucy leaned against Abigail's side. "Don't worry, Miss Abigail. We like you." Abigail's hand settled on Lucy's shoulder. "Thank you, sweet girl. That means more than you know." They rode toward the ranch in silence. The sky was gray. Snow was coming. But inside the wagon, something fragile was forming. Not love, not yet, but possibility. "Yeah." The cabin appeared over the ridge. Abigail leaned forward slightly, taking it in. Nate tried to see it through her eyes. It was small, rough, nothing fancy, but it was solid. The roof was tight. The chimney drew well. It was a home. "It's beautiful," she said. Nate glanced at her. She wasn't lying. He could see it in her face. "It ain't much. It's honest work built by honest hands. That makes it beautiful." He helped her down. Lucy grabbed her hand immediately. "Come see inside. Papa built most of it himself. Mama helped with the curtains, but they're old now. Maybe you could make new ones." Abigail let herself be pulled inside. The cabin was warm, clean, sparse. A table, chairs, the fireplace. Lucy's toys in a corner. Nate watched Abigail's face as she looked around. No disappointment, no judgment, just quiet assessment. "Your father's a skilled builder," she said to Lucy. "He made my bed too. Want to see?" "In a minute, little bird," Nate said. "Let Miss Abigail get settled first." He gestured to the small room off the main space. "That's yours. Ain't big, but it's private." Abigail set her bag inside. The room was tiny. Bed, small table, one chair. A window that looked toward the mountains. "It's perfect," she said. "Thank you." "Papa, can we cut the tree now?" Lucy bounced on her toes. "Let Miss Abigail rest." "I'd love to help," Abigail interrupted. "If you don't mind, I've been sitting for days. I'd welcome the activity." Nate hesitated. "You sure it's cold out?" "I'm sure." So they went. Nate grabbed his axe. Lucy ran ahead, pointing at trees. "That one? No, that one? No, Papa, that one." Abigail walked beside Nate. After a while, she spoke. "Mr. Brennan, I need to explain my circumstances fully. You deserve the truth." "You don't owe me." "I do. You took a risk bringing me here. The least I can do is be honest." He waited. My father was William Monroe. He owned a mercantile in St. Louis, a respected man. I was educated, taught school for 4 years. Last spring he died suddenly. Heart failure. She paused. When the lawyers settled his estate, I learned he'd been borrowing for years. Gambling debts mostly. Everything we owned was mortgaged 3 times over. She kept walking, eyes forward. I sold the house, the store inventory, my mother's jewelry. Everything. It paid most of the debts, but not all. The teaching position went to a married woman. They said a single woman with scandal attached wasn't suitable. I had no family, no prospects. Her voice stayed steady. I saw your advertisement in a St. Louis paper. A widower with a daughter seeking a partner for frontier life. I could have lied, Mr. Brennan. Could have borrowed a fine dress, pretended to have means. But I won't build a life on deception. You deserve to know exactly who answered your advertisement. A woman with nothing but her honor. Nate stopped walking. You could have mentioned it in your letters. Would you have sent the train fare if I had? Honest question. Honest answer. Probably not. Then I made a gamble. I prayed you'd see past the poverty to the person beneath. Was I wrong? He looked at her. Really looked. The threadbare dress, yes. The worn boots, yes. But also the straight spine, the clear eyes, the careful patches sewn with pride. No, he said slowly. You weren't wrong. Something in her face softened. Relief, maybe. Or gratitude. Thank you, she whispered. Papa, Lucy called. I found the perfect tree. They walked toward his daughter's voice. Behind them, the sun broke through the clouds just for a moment. Golden light on white snow. Nate glanced at Abigail. She was smiling. Not a big smile, just a small private curve of her lips, like someone who'd been carrying a weight and finally set it down. They cut the tree and dragged it back. Lucy chattered the whole time about Christmas, about Mama's ornaments, about the cookies they'd make tomorrow. Inside, Nate set the tree in the corner. Abigail had vanished into the kitchen. He heard her moving around, quiet and efficient. Papa can miss Abigail stay forever, Lucy whispered. That's up to her, little bird. But you want her to write? Did he? Nate looked toward the kitchen. 24 hours ago, he'd been resigned to a marriage of convenience, a transaction. Now, I think, he said carefully, that Miss Abigail might be exactly what this family needs. Lucy hugged him tight. That evening, they decorated the tree. Abigail found scraps of fabric and fashioned little bows. Lucy hung pine cones she'd collected. Nate added the wooden star Sarah had carved years ago. When it was done, they stood back. It's beautiful, Abigail said. Mama would have liked it, Lucy agreed. Nate said nothing, but he thought Sarah would have liked you too. Later, after Lucy was in bed, Nate and Abigail sat by the fire. The silence was comfortable. Mr. Brennan, she said eventually, what are your expectations of this arrangement? Straight to the point. He respected that. I need help with Lucy and the household. I need someone who can teach her, guide her. In return, you'll have a home security, respect as my wife. And affection. His chest tightened. I cared deep for my wife. She's been gone 2 years, but I ain't ready to feel that way again. Maybe never will be. I can promise respect, protection, partnership, but not love. That honest enough? She nodded slowly. It's honest, and it's more than I have any right to expect. What about you? What do you need from this? Safety, a home, purpose. I don't need grand gestures, Mr. Brennan. I need to be useful, to matter. You'll matter to Lucy, that's certain. And to you. He met her eyes. You already matter. You came here with nothing and held your head high. That takes courage most men don't have. So yeah, you matter. She looked away, blinking rapidly. Miss Monroe? Abigail, please, if we're to be partners, use my name. Abigail. And I'm Nate. Nate. She tested it. All right. They sat a while longer. Then Abigail rose. I should sleep. Tomorrow's Christmas. I'd like to make it special for Lucy if you'll allow it. Allow it. I'd be grateful for it. She smiled. Good night, Nate. Good night, Abigail. She disappeared into her small room. Nate stayed by the fire thinking. This wasn't what he'd expected. But maybe that was the point. Maybe the best things were the ones you didn't plan for. Outside snow began to fall. Soft and silent. Covering the world in white. Inside, 3 people slept under one roof. Not a family yet, but the beginning of one. And in the morning, Christmas would come, with all its promises of hope renewed and grace given. The coldest winter was just beginning to thaw. Christmas morning arrived with Lucy's shriek of joy. Nate jolted awake, heart pounding, reaching instinctively for the rifle he kept by the bed. Then he heard his daughter's laughter and relaxed. Papa. Papa. Come see. Come see what happened. He pulled on his pants and stumbled into the main room. Lucy stood by the fireplace in her nightgown, pointing at her stocking. It bulged with something. I didn't put nothing in there, Nate said. Then who did? Abigail's door opened. She emerged already dressed, hair neatly pinned. Merry Christmas! Lucy ran to her. Miss Abigail, did you see? There's something in my stocking. Is there? Well, you should look. Lucy pulled out a small carved bird. Wooden delicate with wings spread mid-flight. The detail was extraordinary. It's a chickadee, Abigail said softly. They're brave little birds. They stay through winter when others fly south. Lucy turned it over in her hands reverent. Did you make this? I did. I carved it last night after you went to sleep. I hope you like it. I love it. Lucy threw her arms around Abigail's waist. Thank you, Miss Abigail. Thank you so much. Over Lucy's head, Abigail's eyes met Nate's. He saw exhaustion there. She'd stayed up late carving instead of sleeping. For his daughter. For a child she'd known less than a day. That was kind of you, he said. It was nothing. It ain't nothing to her. Abigail's cheeks colored. I should start breakfast. Lucy, would you like to help? Yes. They disappeared into the kitchen. Nate heard Lucy's chatter, Abigail's patient responses. He picked up the wooden bird from where Lucy had set it. The carving was skilled, precise. This woman had hidden talents. He set it back carefully and went to do morning chores. When he returned, breakfast was ready. Eggs, biscuits, coffee. Simple but good. They ate together, Lucy talking non-stop about the bird, about Christmas, about everything. Miss Abigail, can you teach me to carve? If your papa approves? Papa, can she? Nate nodded. Long as you're careful with the knife. After breakfast, Abigail insisted on cleaning up. Nate took Lucy outside to check on the animals. When they came back in, Abigail had transformed the cabin. She'd hung pine boughs over the doorway, arranged pine cones on the table, made the space feel festive, with nothing but what nature provided. You got a gift for making things nice, Nate said. My mother believed a home should reflect care, not wealth. I learned from her. She sounds wise. She was. Abigail's face shadowed. She died when I was 16. Consumption. I'm sorry. It was a long time ago. She turned away, but not before he saw the grief still living in her eyes. The day passed quietly. Lucy played with her bird. Abigail mended one of Lucy's dresses that had torn. Nate worked on fixing a broken chair. Domestic. Peaceful. Strange. That evening, after Lucy was asleep, Nate found Abigail at the table with a piece of paper and a stub of pencil. She was writing something, her brow furrowed in concentration. What's that? She startled. Oh, just a list. Things I noticed that need doing. The curtains are worn. Some of Lucy's clothes are too small. The pantry could be better organized. I wanted to ask your permission before changing anything. He sat across from her. This is your home now. You don't need permission for household things. I need to know your expectations. I expect you to do what needs doing, same as I do." She nodded, making a note. "All right, then I'll need fabric for curtains, and Lucy needs at least 2 new dresses. She's growing fast. There's a seamstress in town. Mrs. Chen does good work. I can sew." "I know, but you don't have to do everything yourself." Her hand stilled on the paper. "Nate, I need you to understand something. I didn't come here to be a burden. I came to contribute. If I can make things instead of buying them, that saves money. Money you can use for the ranch, for Lucy's future. We ain't destitute." "I know, but poverty taught me not to waste. Let me use what skills I have." He studied her. Pride again. That fierce independence. "All right. But you need supplies, you tell me. No making do with scraps when proper materials are available." "Fair enough." She returned to her list. Nate watched her write. Her handwriting was beautiful, educated, a reminder that she'd once been someone entirely different. "Abigail, can I ask you something?" "Of course." "Why'd you really answer my advertisement? You're educated, pretty. You could have found work, maybe married someone in the city." She set down the pencil. "You want honesty?" "Always." "I was ruined, Nate, in society's eyes. The scandal of my father's debts destroyed my reputation. No respectable family would hire me. No man would court me. I had 2 choices: become a charity case, dependent on others' pity, or leave. Start over where nobody knew my shame." She met his eyes. "I chose dignity over pity. Even if it meant marrying a stranger and traveling 1,000 miles to do it. That's brave. That's desperate. There's a difference. No. Desperation makes people do foolish things. You made a calculated risk. That's courage." Something shifted in her expression. Softness, maybe. "Thank you for seeing it that way." They sat in comfortable silence. Outside, the wind picked up. Snow scratched at the windows. "Storm's getting worse," Nate said. "Will we be snowed in?" "Probably. For a few days at least." "Good." He looked at her, surprised. She smiled slightly. "It gives us time to figure out how this works, without the town watching every move." She was right, and smart. "You planned that." "I hoped for it. Weather cooperates or it doesn't. But yes, I thought time alone would help." "You think like a strategist." "I think like a woman who's learned to plan ahead or suffer consequences." "Fair enough." The next morning brought 2 feet of fresh snow and winds that howled like dying things. They were trapped. Nate did what chores he could in the barn. Abigail kept the cabin warm and made meals appear like magic. Lucy played contentedly, talking to both adults like they'd always been there. On the second day of being snowed in, Lucy asked the question Nate had been dreading. "Miss Abigail, are you going to marry Papa?" Abigail was kneading bread, her hands stilled. "Yes, Lucy, that's the plan." "So you'll be my new mama. I'll be your papa's wife. I can't replace your mama. Nobody could. But I can love you and take care of you. Would that be all right?" Lucy considered this seriously. "Will you leave like Mama did?" The kitchen went silent. Nate froze. Abigail knelt, flour dusting her hands. "Lucy, your mama didn't leave you. Death took her. That's different. It wasn't her choice." "But you could leave. You could decide you don't like us and go away." "I could," Abigail said honestly. "But I won't. You want to know how I know?" Lucy nodded. "Because I've been alone, Lucy. Really alone. And it's cold and hard, and I never want to be that alone again. You and your papa are offering me a family. That's the most precious thing in the world. I'd have to be foolish to throw it away. And I'm not foolish. Promise. I promise." Lucy hugged her tight. Abigail held her eyes closed, and Nate saw a tear slip down her cheek. That night, after Lucy was asleep, Nate found Abigail crying quietly by the fire. "What's wrong?" She wiped her eyes quickly. "Nothing. I'm fine. You ain't fine. I just... Her voice broke. That little girl lost her mother, and she's so scared of losing someone else. And I promised her I'd stay. But what if I can't keep that promise? What if something happens? What if... Abigail. He sat beside her. You can't control everything. Life's gonna do what it does, but you can control your intentions. And I believe you meant what you said. I did. God, I did. I already love that child. I know. She looked at him. How do you know? Because you stayed up carving a bird instead of sleeping. Because you knelt in flour to comfort her. Because you cry when you think about her pain. That's love. Fresh tears spilled. I didn't expect this. I thought it would be an arrangement. Practical. I didn't think I'd feel... She stopped. Didn't think you'd feel what? Like I belonged. Like I mattered. Like I was home. Something in Nate's chest cracked. He reached out and took her hand. The first time he'd touched her deliberately. Her fingers were small in his work-roughened warm. You do belong, he said. You matter to Lucy, and you matter to me. She gripped his hand like a lifeline. They sat that way until the fire burned low. The storm broke on the third day. Sun emerged blinding on white snow. Nate dug paths to the barn and the woodpile. Abigail and Lucy made snowballs and threw them at each other, laughing. Nate watched from the barn door. His daughter's laughter, the sound he'd thought was gone forever, and Abigail flushed and smiling, looking younger than her years. Something warm unfurled in his chest. Not love, not yet, but something close, something possible. That afternoon he rode into town for supplies. The roads were barely passable. Main Street was quiet snow piled high. He was loading flour into the wagon when Helen Ashford appeared. Nathaniel, I've been worried. No need, we're fine. Are you snowed in with a stranger? That must have been difficult. It was fine, Helen. She moved closer. Nathaniel, I need to speak plainly. This girl you've brought here, she's not suitable. That ain't your concern. It is my concern. I care about you, about Lucy. This woman arrived in rags. What does that say about her character, about her breeding? Nate's jaw tightened. It says she's known hardship and survived it with dignity. That's more character than most folks I know. Or it says she's made poor choices. Her father made poor choices. She paid for them. There's a difference. Helen's eyes flashed. You're defending her. She's going to be my wife. Course I'm defending her. Nathaniel, please, think about what you're doing. You could have anyone. Someone established, someone respectable, someone like you. She lifted her chin. Yes. Helen, you're a fine woman. But you ain't the woman for me. And you never were. Because of her? Because of some desperate girl who showed up begging. Watch your mouth. I'm trying to save you from making a terrible mistake. The only mistake would be listening to you. He climbed into the wagon. Good day, Helen. He drove away, anger simmering. Behind him, Helen stood in the snow, her face carved from ice. That evening, he told Abigail about the encounter. They were sitting by the fire after dinner. Lucy was playing with her carved bird. She called you desperate, he said. And unsuitable. Abigail's face was calm. Did she? It ain't true. Isn't it I was desperate, Nate? Let's not pretend otherwise. Desperate ain't the same as worthless. And suitable's just another word for approved by people whose approval don't matter. She smiled slightly. You're angry. Course I'm angry. She insulted you. She insulted you too, by suggesting you lack judgment. He hadn't thought of it that way. I suppose she did. People like Helen Ashford fear what they can't control. She wanted you for herself. I took that possibility away. Now she'll do whatever she can to prove I'm unworthy so she can reclaim what she thinks she lost. You ain't just smart, you're shrewd. I've had to be. Lucy climbed into Abigail's lap suddenly. Miss Abigail, I love you. Abigail's arms came around her immediately. I love you too, sweet girl. Will you really be my mama? If you'll have me. I will. Lucy nestled against her. You're much nicer than Mrs. Ashford. Nate and Abigail's eyes met over Lucy's head. Both smiled. That night, Nate lay in bed thinking. 3 weeks ago, he'd placed an advertisement out of obligation. 2 weeks ago, he'd received Abigail's response. 1 week ago, she'd arrived in rags. Now she was essential, already. In less than a week, she'd become part of the fabric of their lives. It terrified him. Because if he let himself care, if he let himself feel, he could lose again. And he didn't know if he could survive that twice. But pushing her away would hurt Lucy, would hurt Abigail, would hurt himself. He was trapped between fear and possibility. The next morning he made a decision. Abigail, we should set a date. She looked up from the stove. A date? For the wedding. Reverend Caldwell can marry us. Make it official. How soon? 2 weeks. Give folks time to adjust to the idea. She nodded slowly. All right, 2 weeks. Unless you want longer. No. 2 weeks is fine. She hesitated. I don't have a dress, a proper one. We'll get you one. Nate, I don't need fancy. This ain't about fancy. This is about you having something new, something that's yours, not patched, not borrowed, yours. Her eyes filled. That's kind. It's practical. You're gonna be my wife. The town's gonna judge enough as it is. At least give them one less thing to criticize. Is that why? Because of the town? No. He met her eyes. It's because you deserve it. She turned away quickly, but not before he saw her wipe her eyes. That afternoon they drove to town, all three of them. At the general store, Samuel Tucker greeted them warmly. Nate, Miss Monroe, Lucy, what can I do for you? Need fabric, Nate said. For a dress. A wedding dress. Tucker's eyes widened. Setting a date. 2 weeks. Well, congratulations. He pulled out bolts of cloth. What color you thinking? Abigail touched a soft blue fabric. This is lovely. Take it, Nate said. It's expensive. Take it. She ran her hand over the fabric with such longing that Nate's heart twisted. When had she last had something new? Something chosen just for her? I'll take it, she said softly. Thank you. They bought fabric thread buttons. Tucker threw in some ribbon at no charge. Wedding present, he said with a wink. As they left, Martha Cooper appeared. Nate, I heard. 2 weeks. Yes, ma'am. Martha turned to Abigail. Child, come to my house tomorrow. I'll help with the sewing. These old hands can still manage a needle, and we'll get you a proper dress. I don't want to impose. It ain't imposing, it's neighboring. That's what we do here. Abigail's eyes filled again. Thank you. They drove home in good spirits. Lucy chattered about the wedding. Abigail smiled more than Nate had seen. He felt something close to contentment. Then they crested the hill to the ranch and saw smoke. Too much smoke. Nate's heart stopped. He slapped the reins. The wagon lurched forward. The barn was burning. Flames poured from the roof. Black smoke billowed into the clear sky. Inside, the horses screamed. Stay in the wagon, Nate shouted. He jumped down, running. The heat was enormous. He grabbed a bucket, filled it from the trough, threw water uselessly at the inferno. The horses' screams grew louder. He couldn't let them die. He pulled his coat over his head and ran inside. Smoke choked him immediately. He couldn't see, couldn't breathe. He found the first stall by feel, threw it open. The mare bolted past him toward the door. The second stall. The gelding. He grabbed the halter, pulled. The horse reared, panicked. Hooves narrowly missed Nate's head. "Come on, you damn fool," he growled. He yanked hard. The horse followed. They burst into daylight. Nate's lungs burned. His eyes streamed. He collapsed to his knees, coughing. Hands grabbed him. Abigail. She pulled him away from the barn. "Are you insane? You could have died." The horses. "The horses aren't worth your life." The barn roof collapsed with a roar. Sparks shot into the sky. The structure groaned and folded in on itself. Nate watched his barn burn. Watched 2 years of work crumble. The hay, the tools, the tack. Everything gone. "Papa," Lucy was crying. Abigail held her tight. "I'm all right, little bird." "What happened?" Abigail's voice was steady despite the chaos. "How did it start?" "I don't know. We were only gone a few hours." "Could it have been an accident?" Nate looked at the ruins, at the deliberate way it had burned, at how fast it had spread. "No," he said slowly. "This was set." Abigail's face went pale. "Who would—" "I don't know, but I aim to find out." They spent the rest of the day salvaging what they could. The horses were safe but terrified. The barn was a total loss. Nate estimated the damage at 6 months' income, maybe more. That night, Lucy finally cried herself to sleep. Nate sat at the table, head in his hands. Abigail made coffee and sat across from him. "This is my fault," she said quietly. He looked up. "What?" "Someone doesn't want you to marry me. This is a warning." "You don't know that." "Don't I?" Helen Ashford made her feelings clear. "And today your barn burns." "You think Helen?" "I think someone who wants to make your life difficult enough that you reconsider, that you send me away." Nate's jaw clenched. "Then they're gonna be disappointed." "Nate, if I leave, this stops. You can rebuild, move on. You ain't leaving." "But—" "No." His voice was steel. "I don't know who did this. Maybe it was kids playing with matches. Maybe it was someone with a grudge. But I ain't making decisions based on fear. And I sure as hell ain't letting someone run you off." "It's not worth—" "You're worth it." The words came out harsh, certain. "You're worth every bit of trouble that comes with this. Lucy loves you. Hell, I—" He stopped. She waited. "I care about you," he finished roughly. "More than I thought I would. More than I planned. And I ain't losing someone else because the world's cruel. We face this together. Understand?" Tears slipped down her cheeks. "Yes." "Good. Then stop talking about leaving." She nodded. He reached across the table and took her hand. Held it tight. An anchor in the storm. Outside the barn smoldered. Inside, something stronger than fire was being forged. Morning came with ash still drifting on the wind. Nate stood in the ruins of his barn, turning over charred boards with his boot, looking for answers, looking for proof. "Find anything?" He turned. Tom Cooper stood at the edge of the debris, hat in hand. "Tom, what brings you out?" "Martha told me about the fire. Came to see if you need help." "I need a new barn." Tom stepped closer, studying the wreckage. "This wasn't no accident, Nate." "I know." "You know who done it." "Got suspicions. No proof." Tom picked up a piece of charred wood, sniffed it. "Coal oil. Someone doused this good before lighting it." Nate's fists clenched. "You sure?" "I'm sure. This was deliberate. Someone wanted to hurt you bad. Or scare me." "Into what?" "Into sending Abigail away." Tom's eyes narrowed. "The town talking. Helen Ashford's talking. Rest are listening." "Helen's a bitter woman, Nate. But arson, that's a whole different kind of evil. Maybe she didn't do it herself. Maybe she just made her feelings known, and someone else took action." "You gonna report this to Sheriff Morrison?" Nate laughed bitterly. "Morrison's in Helen's pocket. He won't do nothing." "Then what?" "Then I rebuild, and I watch my back, and I marry Abigail in 2 weeks like planned." Tom studied him. You're set on this girl. I am. Even with all this trouble. Especially with all this trouble, I ain't letting bullies make my decisions for me. Tom clapped his shoulder. Good man. I'll help with the rebuild. Got some lumber I can spare. Tom, I can't afford. Didn't say I was selling it. Said I'm sparing it. That's what neighbors do. Nate's throat tightened. I appreciate it. Just return the favor someday when I need it. They shook hands. Inside the cabin, Abigail was teaching Lucy to read. Nate heard his daughter's careful voice sounding out words. Heard Abigail's patient corrections. Heard laughter when Lucy got something right. He stood in the doorway watching. This was what he'd been missing. Not just help with the household. Not just someone to watch Lucy. This. Warmth. Life. Purpose. Abigail looked up and smiled. Something in his chest shifted. Papa, I read a whole page, Lucy announced proudly. That's good, little bird. Miss Abigail says if I keep practicing, I'll be able to read anything. Miss Abigail's right. Abigail stood. Lucy, why don't you practice your letters while I talk to your papa? Lucy nodded, returning to her slate. Abigail followed Nate outside. Tom Cooper came. He did. Brought news. Someone used coal oil to start the fire. This wasn't an accident. Her face paled, but her voice stayed steady. What are you going to do? Rebuild. What else can I do? You could find out who did it. I got my suspicions, but proving it's another matter. Nate, if someone's willing to burn your barn, what's to stop them from doing worse? Nothing. Which is why I need you to be careful. Don't go anywhere alone. Don't trust anyone you don't know. Keep Lucy close. You think they'd hurt her? I think desperate people do desperate things, and I ain't taking chances with my daughter's safety, or yours. She wrapped her arms around herself. This is my fault. Stop saying that. But it's true. If you hadn't come, Lucy would still be grieving. I'd still be half dead inside. And whoever burned my barn would have found some other reason to cause trouble. Bad people don't need good reasons, Abigail. They just need targets. I don't want to be the reason you lose everything. He gripped her shoulders. You ain't the reason. You're the reason I got something worth protecting. Her eyes filled. You mean that? Every word. She stepped closer. For a moment he thought she might kiss him. For a moment he wanted her to. But she just rested her forehead against his chest, breathing deep. Thank you, she whispered. He held her, just held her, and felt something inside him crack open wider. The next 3 days passed in hard work. Tom came every morning with his sons. They cleared the wreckage, laid new foundation posts, began framing. Other neighbors showed up too. The storekeeper brought nails. The blacksmith brought iron brackets. Martha brought food for the workers. Only Helen Ashford and her circle stayed away. On the 4th day, Nate rode into town for more supplies. He was loading the wagon when Sheriff Morrison approached. Nate, heard about your barn. Did you? Shame. Any idea how it started? Got a few ideas. Morrison's eyes narrowed. You accusing someone? Just stating facts. Fire was set deliberate. Someone used accelerant. That's a serious claim. It's a serious crime. You got proof. Tom Cooper can testify to the coal oil. Tom Cooper's your friend. His testimony ain't exactly unbiased. Nate's jaw clenched. So you ain't gonna investigate? Didn't say that. Just saying I need more than suspicion before I go accusing upstanding citizens. Upstanding citizens like Helen Ashford. Morrison's face hardened. Mrs. Ashford's a respected member of this community. She wouldn't involve herself in something as crude as arson. Maybe not directly, but words have power, Sheriff, and when powerful people make their displeasure known, others act on it. That's a dangerous accusation, Nate. It's a dangerous situation. Someone tried to destroy my livelihood. You gonna do your job or not? Morrison stepped closer, voice dropping. My job is keeping the peace, and I'm telling you, stirring up trouble against Mrs. Ashford ain't gonna help you none. She's got influence, she's got friends. You're a widower with a mail-order bride who showed up in rags. Who do you think folks are gonna believe? Nate's fists clenched. So that's how it is. That's how it is. My advice? Take your losses, rebuild, and maybe reconsider this marriage. Find someone more suitable, someone who won't bring trouble to your door. Get out of my way, Sheriff. I'm trying to help you. You're trying to help yourself, and whoever's paying you to look the other way. Morrison's face flushed red. Watch your mouth, Brennan. Or what you'll arrest me for speaking truth. Go ahead. Give me a platform to tell the whole town what kind of lawman you are. They stared at each other. Finally, Morrison stepped back. You're making a mistake. Maybe, but it's my mistake to make. Nate climbed into the wagon and drove away. His hands shook with anger. The law wouldn't help. The town wouldn't help. He was on his own. When he got home, Martha Cooper was there with Abigail. They were sewing the wedding dress. Lucy sat between them, threading needles. Nate, Martha greeted. We're almost finished. Want to see? It's bad luck for the groom to see the dress before the wedding, Abigail said quickly. Since when are you superstitious? Since I got something to lose. Their eyes met. He saw fear there. Fear that something would go wrong, that happiness would be snatched away again. Nothing's gonna go wrong, he said firmly. You can't promise that. Watch me. That night after Martha left and Lucy was asleep, Abigail came to him by the fire. I need to tell you something. All right. When I was in St. Louis after my father died, a man approached me, a businessman. He offered to pay my father's remaining debts in exchange for certain services. Nate's stomach dropped. What kind of services? The kind that would have destroyed what little reputation I had left. I refused. He got angry, said I'd regret it, that he'd make sure I never found respectable work again. She paused. His name was Harold Ashford. Nate's blood went cold. Helen's late husband. Yes, he died 6 months later. Heart attack. I thought that was the end of it. But when Helen looked at me that first day, I saw recognition. I think her husband mentioned me, maybe boasted about his attempt to ruin me, maybe told her I was a woman of loose morals who rejected his generous offer. So Helen thinks. She thinks I'm exactly what her husband tried to make me, a woman willing to sell herself. And now I'm marrying you. In her eyes, I'm not just poor. I'm corrupt. Nate stood pacing. This changes things. I know. I should have told you before, but I was ashamed. Even though I did nothing wrong, I was ashamed. You got nothing to be ashamed of. Harold Ashford was a snake. Everyone knew it. And Helen? He stopped. Helen ain't just bitter about losing her husband. She's bitter because her husband wanted you instead of her. Abigail's eyes widened. I didn't think of it that way. Jealousy makes people cruel. And Helen's got a double dose. She wanted me. I chose you. Her husband wanted you. You rejected him. In her mind, you're the woman who refuses to know her place. So what do? We get married. We live our lives. And we let Helen stew in her own poison. What if she does something worse than burn a barn? Then I'll deal with it. But I ain't living in fear. And I ain't letting her win. Abigail moved closer. Nate, I need you to know something. I didn't come here to trap you. I didn't come here with secrets meant to manipulate. I came here desperate, yes, but honest. Everything I told you was true. I know. But if you want to call off the wedding, I'll understand. I'll leave. I won't make trouble. He cupped her face in his hands. You ain't leaving. You're staying. We're getting married. And anyone who don't like it can go to hell. She laughed wetly. That's very direct. I'm done being diplomatic. She rose on her toes and kissed him. Quick, soft, but it seared through him like lightning. "What was that for?" he asked roughly. "For choosing me, again and again, despite everything." "Ain't hard to choose you, Abigail. You make it easy." She smiled. "You're a good man, Nate Brennan." "I'm a stubborn man." "That too." The next week passed in a blur. The barn took shape. The dress was finished. Invitations were sent. Martha insisted on hosting a small reception at her house after the ceremony. 3 days before the wedding, Nate was working on the barn roof when he saw a rider approaching. He climbed down, hand instinctively moving to the rifle, leaning against the wall. The rider was a young man, maybe 20, dressed too fine for ranch work. "Mr. Brennan." "That's me. I got a message for you, from Mrs. Ashford." Nate's jaw clenched. "I ain't interested. She said to give you this." The man held out an envelope. Nate didn't take it. "What is it?" "A legal document. She's claiming Miss Monroe owes her late husband's estate money. She's prepared to file suit unless Miss Monroe leaves town before the wedding." Nate's vision went red. "That's extortion." "That's business, sir. Mrs. Ashford has lawyers. Good ones. She can make life very difficult for you both. Tell Mrs. Ashford she can take her lawyers and—" "Nate." Abigail appeared from the cabin. She saw the envelope. Her face went white. "What is that?" The young man addressed her directly. "Miss Monroe, Mrs. Ashford is prepared to testify that her late husband lent your father money. She has documents, promissory notes. If you don't leave Copper Ridge by the end of the week, she'll sue for repayment, plus interest. She estimates the total at $3,000. Abigail swayed. Nate caught her arm. "That's a lie," she said weakly. "Harold Ashford never loaned my father anything." "Mrs. Ashford has papers that say otherwise." "Forged papers," Nate growled. "That's for a judge to decide. But the trial would be public, lengthy, expensive, and Miss Monroe's reputation would be thoroughly examined. All her past associations, all her father's debts, everything." The threat was clear. Helen would drag Abigail through the mud publicly, would destroy whatever dignity she had left. "Get off my property," Nate said. "I'm just the messenger." "Then deliver this message back. Tell Helen Ashford she can take her threats and choke on them. Tell her we're getting married in 3 days. And tell her if she shows her face at my ranch again, I'll have her arrested for trespassing." The young man's eyes widened. "Sir, I don't think you understand." "I understand perfectly. Now get." The rider left quickly. Nate turned to Abigail. She was crying silently. "I have to leave," she said. "No." "Nate, she'll ruin you. She'll tie you up in court for years. You'll lose the ranch trying to pay lawyers." "I don't care." "I care. I won't let you sacrifice everything for me. You ain't letting me do nothing. I'm choosing this. I'm choosing you." "Why?" Her voice broke. "Why are you so determined to keep me? I'm nothing but trouble. I bring scandal and debt and enemies. Why not just let me go?" He pulled her close. "You want to know why?" "Because for 2 years I've been dead inside, going through motions, existing but not living. And then you showed up in your patched dress with your stubborn pride and your gentle hands, and I started feeling again. Started hoping again. Lucy laughs now. Really laughs. Because of you. And I—" He stopped. "You what?" "I think I'm falling in love with you. And I ain't letting Helen Ashford or anyone else take that away." She stared at him. "You love me. Getting there, yeah. But you said you couldn't. You said your heart was too wounded. Turns out hearts heal when they got reason to. You're my reason." She kissed him, hard, desperate, clinging to him like he was the only solid thing in a shifting world. When they broke apart, she whispered, "I love you too. I think I have since you defended me to Helen that first day. But Nate love isn't enough. She'll destroy us." Then we'll be destroyed together. But we won't go down without a fight. What are you going to do? I'm going to call her bluff, tomorrow, in front of the whole town. How? You let me worry about that. That evening, Nate rode to Tom Cooper's house. Tom listened to the whole story, face growing darker with each detail. Helen's overplayed her hand, Tom said finally. How do you figure? She's threatening a public trial, which means public testimony, which means folks will hear about Harold's attempt to proposition Abigail, about his gambling debts, about all the shady business he was involved in. Helen's trying to protect her reputation by attacking Abigail's. But if this goes to trial, her own dirty laundry comes out. She's got lawyers. She's got lies, and lies crumble under scrutiny. Tom leaned forward. Here's what we do. Tomorrow's Sunday. Everyone will be at church. You stand up in front of the congregation and tell the truth. All of it. Force Helen's hand. Make her either back down or commit to a fight she can't win. That's risky. Everything worth doing is risky. But you got allies, Nate. Martha and me, Samuel Tucker, Reverend Caldwell. Most folks in this town are decent. They just need someone to lead, someone to say enough's enough. What if they side with Helen? Then you know where you stand. But my guess. Once they hear the truth, they'll side with you. Nate rode home with a plan forming. It was dangerous. Could backfire spectacularly. But doing nothing was worse. That night, he told Abigail what he intended. She went pale. Nate, you can't. You can't air all this in front of the congregation. Why not? Helen's counting on you being too ashamed to speak up. She's counting on me being too proud to admit my bride came here poor. Well, I ain't ashamed. And I ain't proud. I'm just a man who found something worth fighting for. But my reputation, your reputation survives the truth. It's lies that kill reputations. She covered her face with her hands. I can't do it. I can't stand in front of all those people and... You don't have to say nothing. I'll do the talking. All you got to do is stand beside me. That's all. She laughed bitterly. That's everything. I know. But Abigail, we can't live in fear. We can't let bullies dictate our lives. We gotta stand up, together. She looked at him for a long time. Finally she nodded. All right. We stand together. Sunday morning dawned bright and cold. Nate put on his best shirt. Abigail wore her new dress, the blue one. She looked beautiful and terrified. Lucy held both their hands as they walked into church. The congregation was already seated. Conversations died when they entered. Helen Ashford sat in the front pew dressed in black, her face serene. Reverend Caldwell stood at the pulpit. Welcome, friends. Let us begin with prayer. They prayed. They sang. The Reverend began his sermon. Nate barely heard any of it. His heart pounded. His palms sweated. Finally, the sermon ended. The Reverend called for any who had testimonies or announcements. Nate stood. The church went silent. Reverend, if I may, I got something to say. Caldwell nodded. The floor is yours, Nathaniel. Nate walked to the front, Abigail beside him. He faced the congregation, faced Helen's cold stare. Most of you know me. I've ranched in this territory for 10 years. I've been your neighbor, your customer, your friend. 2 years ago, I lost my wife. Thought I'd never heal from that. Thought I'd just raise my daughter alone and let the rest of my life pass by. He paused. Then I placed an advertisement for a mail-order bride. Not because I wanted to replace Sarah. You can't replace someone you love, but because Lucy needed a mother figure, and because I was tired of being half alive. Abigail's hand found his. He squeezed it. Abigail Monroe answered my advertisement. She came here with one bag and a dress that had been patched 3 times. She came here poor, and some folks in this town decided that made her worthless. Helen shifted in her seat. But I'm here to tell you something. I've seen more character in this woman's patched dress than I've seen in some folks' Sunday best. She came here honest, Told me straight she'd lost everything paying her father's debts. Could have lied. Could have pretended. She chose truth instead. He looked at Helen directly. Now some people in this town want to drive her away. Burned my barn to scare me. Threatened legal action to intimidate her. Spread lies to ruin her reputation. Well, I'm done being scared. And I'm done being quiet. The congregation stirred. Whispers erupted. I'm marrying Abigail Monroe on Wednesday. Anyone who's got a problem with that can speak now. But know this, if you attack her, you attack me. If you slander her, you slander my choice. And I will defend both with everything I got. He turned to Helen. Mrs. Ashford, you want to sue over some forged promissory notes? Go ahead. We'll see how your late husband's reputation holds up under scrutiny. We'll see what comes out about his business dealings, his gambling, his attempts to proposition vulnerable women. Helen stood face white with rage. How dare you? I dare because it's truth. Your husband approached Abigail when she was desperate, offered to pay her father's debts in exchange for her virtue. She refused. That's the kind of woman she is, and that's why I chose her. The church erupted, people talking over each other, Helen's friends rushing to her side, others staring at Nate in shock. Reverend Caldwell banged his hand on the pulpit. Order, please. Slowly, the noise died down. Mrs. Ashford, Caldwell said gently, is there truth to these accusations? Helen's mouth worked, but no sound came out. Tom Cooper stood. Reverend, I can testify that Nate's barn was deliberately burned. Coal oil was used. That's arson. That's a crime. Martha stood. And I can testify that Miss Monroe is a woman of fine character. She's been nothing but kind and capable since she arrived. Samuel Tucker stood. I can testify that she's honest. Never tried to get credit she couldn't repay. Never tried to take advantage. One by one, people stood. Not everyone, but enough. Enough to show Helen she didn't control the town as completely as she thought. Helen looked around, seeing her power crumble. This is outrageous. I won't stand here and be accused. Then sit down, Tom said mildly. Or leave, but stop threatening decent folks. Helen gathered her skirts. You'll regret this, Nathaniel Brennan. All of you will. She swept from the church, her few remaining allies following. The silence that followed was profound. Then Reverend Caldwell spoke. Nathaniel, Miss Monroe, I believe there's a wedding to plan. Shall we discuss details? Relief flooded through Nate so strong he almost collapsed. Yes, sir. We'd like that. After church people approached. Not everyone. Some left quickly, unwilling to take sides. But enough stayed. Enough offered congratulations. Enough invited them to the post-wedding reception. Martha hugged Abigail. Welcome to Copper Ridge, child. Really welcome. Tom clapped Nate's shoulder. That took guts. That took stupidity, Nate muttered. Sometimes they're the same thing. They rode home in silence. Lucy fell asleep in the wagon bed. Finally, Abigail spoke. I can't believe you did that. Had to be done. You turned the whole town against Helen Ashford. She did that herself. I just gave folks permission to admit it. What if she retaliates? Then we'll handle it. Together. Abigail leaned against his shoulder. 3 more days. 3 more days and you'll be Mrs. Brennan. I already feel like Mrs. Brennan. Yeah. They reached the ranch. The new barn stood framed but not finished. The cabin looked small and humble in the afternoon light. But it was home. Nate helped Abigail down. Their eyes met, held. I love you, he said. First time he'd said it clearly. No qualifications. I love you too, she replied. More than I thought possible. He kissed her, soft, sweet, a promise of things to come. Lucy woke up. Are we home? We're home, little bird, Nate said. And for the first time in 2 years, he meant it completely. Monday morning broke gray and cold. 2 days until the wedding. Nate was repairing fence posts when he heard the horse approaching fast. Too fast. He grabbed his rifle and turned. Tom Cooper pulled up hard, his horse lathered and blowing. "Nate, you need to come to town. Now." "What happened?" "It's Helen. She's gone to Judge Bradford. Filed formal charges against Abigail. Fraud, she's claiming. Says Abigail misrepresented herself in your correspondence. Says you got grounds for annulment based on deception." Nate's blood went cold. "That's insane. That's Helen. Judge is hearing the case this afternoon, 2 o'clock. If he rules in her favor, he can block the marriage. Maybe even order Abigail to leave the territory." "On what grounds?" "Helen's claiming Abigail's a confidence woman. That she came here to trap you into marriage for your property. That her poverty proves she's desperate enough to deceive." That's backwards logic. That's the law when you got a judge in your pocket. Bradford owes Helen's family favors. He'll rule however she wants unless you got evidence to counter her claims. Nate's mind raced. What kind of evidence? Character witnesses, documentation, anything that proves Abigail told the truth in her letters, anything that proves Helen's accusations are false. The letters. I still got all her letters. Bring them. Bring anyone who'll testify for Abigail's character. And Nate? Tom's face was grim. Bring Abigail. She's got to defend herself. If she don't show, Bradford will rule against her by default. Nate ran to the cabin. Abigail was kneading bread, Lucy beside her learning the motions. They both looked up when he burst in. "We got trouble." Abigail's hands stilled in the dough. "What kind?" "Helen filed charges. Judge is hearing the case this afternoon. We gotta go to town." The color drained from her face. "Charges for what?" "Fraud, deception. She's trying to get the marriage blocked." "Can she do that?" "She's doing it. Get Lucy ready. We leave in 10 minutes. Abigail pulled her hands from the dough, wiping them on her apron with shaking fingers. "Nate, maybe I should just leave. If I'm gone, Helen wins, but you're free. Lucy's free. You can rebuild without—" "Don't." His voice was steel. "Don't even think it. We're fighting this. Together. But if the judge rules against me, then we appeal. We fight harder. But we don't quit." She nodded, tears gathering. "All right, let me change. Wear your new dress, the blue one. Show them you ain't ashamed." She disappeared into her room. Lucy grabbed Nate's hand. "Papa, what's happening? Is Miss Abigail in trouble?" "Some people are trying to make trouble for her, but we're gonna fix it." "How?" "By telling the truth, little bird. Truth's got a power all its own." 20 minutes later, they were racing toward town. Nate pushed the horses hard. Beside him, Abigail sat, rigid hands clasped tight in her lap. In the back, Lucy held her carved bird like a talisman. "Tell me about the letters," Nate said. "What exactly did you write?" Abigail's voice was steady despite her fear. "I told you my father was a merchant. That was true. I told you I taught school. That was true. I told you I was educated and capable of running a household. Also true." "Did you mention the debts?" "Not directly. I said my circumstances had changed. That I was seeking a fresh start." "I didn't lie, Nate. I just didn't volunteer information that would have made you reject me outright." "Omission ain't the same as deception." "Helen will argue it is." "Then we'll argue back." They reached town at 1:30. The courthouse was a 2-story building on Main Street. People were already gathering. News traveled fast in small towns. Nate helped Abigail down. She swayed slightly. He steadied her. "You all right?" "No, but I'll manage." Martha Cooper rushed over. "Thank God you're here. Half the town's inside already. Helen's been spreading poison all morning. You need to counter it fast." "Who's on our side?" "Me and Tom, Samuel Tucker, the Reverend, a few others. But plenty are on the fence. They'll go whichever way the wind blows. Then we'll blow it our direction." They entered the courthouse. The main room was packed. Helen sat in the front row dressed in severe black, her face composed. Beside her sat a man in an expensive suit. Her lawyer, probably from Cheyenne. Judge Bradford presided from the bench. He was 60, gray-bearded, his face carved from granite. He looked at Nate without expression. "Mr. Brennan, Miss Monroe, please approach." They walked forward. Nate's hand found Abigail's. He held tight. Bradford shuffled papers. "This court has received a petition from Mrs. Helen Ashford alleging fraud and misrepresentation in the matter of your impending marriage. Mrs. Ashford claims Miss Monroe deliberately deceived you regarding her financial circumstances and character. She's asking the court to void your marriage contract and order Miss Monroe to leave Copper Ridge. How do you plead, Miss Monroe?" Abigail's voice shook, but carried. "Not guilty, Your Honor. I never lied to Mr. Brennan. Mrs. Ashford's lawyer would like to present evidence. Proceed, Mr. Whitmore." The lawyer stood. He was smooth-polished, everything a frontier lawyer pretended to be. "Your Honor, we have testimony from multiple witnesses that Miss Monroe arrived in Copper Ridge dressed in rags, carrying one bag, clearly destitute. Yet in her correspondence with Mr. Brennan, she represented herself as the daughter of a respected merchant, educated and refined. She failed to mention her father's bankruptcy, the scandal surrounding his death, or her own desperate circumstances." "Those are facts, not evidence," Nate interrupted. Bradford's eyes narrowed. "You'll have your turn, Mr. Brennan. Continue, Mr. Whitmore." "Furthermore, we have evidence that Miss Monroe was previously approached by my client's late husband, who offered her financial assistance. She rejected his offer, but later pursued a similar arrangement with Mr. Brennan, suggesting a pattern of using her circumstances to extract support from men." Abigail flinched. Nate's free hand clenched into a fist. "That's a damn lie," he said. "Mr. Brennan, control yourself, or I'll hold you in contempt." "Your Honor, may I speak?" Everyone turned. Reverend Caldwell stood in the back. Bradford nodded. "Approach, Reverend." Caldwell walked forward with quiet dignity. "Your Honor, I've known Nathaniel Brennan for 8 years. He's a man of sound judgment and strong character. If he believes Miss Monroe dealt honestly with him, I'm inclined to accept his assessment." "The Reverend's opinion is noted but not evidence," Whitmore said smoothly. "Then let me provide evidence." Tom Cooper stood. "I've spoken with Miss Monroe multiple times. She's never misrepresented herself. She's been open about her circumstances to anyone who asked. That ain't fraud, that's honesty." "She wasn't open with Mr. Brennan before he sent money for her passage," Whitmore countered. "She secured his investment under false pretenses." "I'll speak to that," Nate said loudly. Bradford sighed. "Very well." Mr. Brennan approached the bench. Nate walked forward, pulling Abigail's letters from his coat. "Your Honor, these are every letter Abigail Monroe sent me. I want them entered as evidence." Bradford took them, reading quickly. His expression didn't change. After several minutes, he looked up. "Miss Monroe, it says here your father was a merchant. Is that true?" "Yes, Your Honor." "That you taught school?" "For 4 years, yes." "That you were seeking a new start after family difficulties?" "Yes." "Did you specify the nature of those difficulties?" "I said my father had passed and left complicated affairs. I said I needed to leave St. Louis for a fresh start. That's all true." "But you didn't mention bankruptcy." "No, sir." "Why not?" Abigail lifted her chin. "Because I was ashamed. Because I knew if I told the whole truth, Mr. Brennan would never send for me. Because I was desperate. But I never lied. I just didn't volunteer every painful detail of my past." "That's deception by omission," Whitmore argued. "That's privacy," Abigail shot back. "That's a woman protecting what little dignity she had left. When I arrived, I told Mr. Brennan everything. Before he made any commitment. Before we signed any contract. I gave him the chance to send me away. He chose to let me stay. That's not fraud. That's honesty when it mattered most." The courtroom stirred. Bradford held up his hand for silence. "Mr. Brennan, is this true? Did Miss Monroe disclose her full circumstances after arrival?" She did. First day. Told me everything. About her father's debts. About losing the teaching position. About having nothing left. She gave me the chance to refuse her then and there. And you chose to proceed anyway. I did. Why? Nate looked at Abigail, saw her trembling, saw her fighting to stay strong. Because I saw her character, Your Honor, saw her dignity, saw her courage. She could have lied to keep me from knowing, could have hidden it. She chose truth. That told me everything I needed to know. Bradford leaned back, studying them both. Mrs. Ashford, why are you bringing this case? Helen stood gracefully. Because I care about Nathaniel Brennan and his daughter, Your Honor. They're vulnerable. A widower and a child. This woman is taking advantage of their loneliness. Is she? Or are you upset that Mr. Brennan chose her over you? Helen's face went white. The courtroom erupted in whispers. Your Honor, that's... Whitmore began. That's relevant. Bradford interrupted. I've known you 30 years, Helen. Known your family. I also knew your late husband. Harold Ashford was a gambler and a womanizer. His debts were substantial when he died. Yet here you are accusing Miss Monroe of scandal while your own house was hardly clean. That's not relevant to this case, Helen said coldly. It's relevant to motive. You're not concerned about Mr. Brennan's welfare. You're concerned about your wounded pride. Bradford turned to Nate. Mr. Brennan, do you freely choose to marry Miss Monroe knowing her full circumstances? I do. And Miss Monroe, did you come here with intent to deceive? No. Your Honor, I came here desperate but honest. I came here hoping for a second chance. That's all. Bradford was quiet for a long moment. Then he banged his gavel. I find no evidence of fraud or deception. The petition is denied. Mr. Brennan and Miss Monroe are free to marry as planned. This court is adjourned. The courtroom exploded. Some cheered. Some protested. Helen stood frozen, her face a mask of fury. Abigail collapsed against Nate, sobbing. It's over. It's really over. Not quite. Helen's voice cut through the noise. She stood pointing at Abigail. You think you've won? You think this changes anything? You'll never be accepted here. Never be respected. You'll always be the mail-order bride who came in rags. And that child... She looked at Lucy. That child will grow up with your shame. Nay. Something in Nate snapped. He moved toward Helen, but Tom grabbed his arm. Don't. She's trying to provoke you. She's succeeding. Martha stepped forward instead. Helen Ashford, you're a bitter, cruel woman. And if you ever threaten that child again, you'll answer to me. Helen laughed. Threats from a blacksmith's wife. How terrifying. Not threats. Promises. You burned Nate's barn. Everyone knows it. You can't prove it, but we know. You tried to destroy a good woman because of your own jealousy. Well, it didn't work. She's staying. They're marrying. And you lost. Helen's composure finally cracked. I'll destroy them. All of them. I have money, influence. You'll do nothing, Judge Bradford said quietly. He'd come down from the bench. Helen, I knew your father. Good man. He'd be ashamed of what you've become. You're angry at the world because your husband was a bastard and your life didn't turn out like you planned. But taking it out on innocent people makes you worse than he ever was. How dare you? I dare because I'm tired of watching you poison this town. Consider this your warning. Any more harassment of the Brennans and I'll issue a restraining order. Keep pushing and I'll look into that barn fire. Tom Cooper says it was arson. I believe him. You want me to investigate? Find out who you paid to do your dirty work. Helen's face went gray. You have no proof. Don't need proof to ask questions. Questions have a way of revealing truth. Now get out of my courtroom. Helen gathered her skirts and swept out. The few people who'd supported her followed like guilty shadows. The rest crowded around Nate and Abigail. Congratulations, relief, support. Samuel Tucker pushed through. Nate Abigail wedding still on for Wednesday. Yes, sir. Then you need rings. Come by the store tomorrow. I got something that'll work. Martha hugged them both. And the reception's still at my house. I'm making my mother's cake. It's settled. Person after person offered support. Not everyone. Some left quietly unwilling to take sides. But enough stayed. Enough to make Copper Ridge feel like home. Finally, the crowd dispersed. Nate, Abigail, and Lucy walked out into the cold afternoon. Lucy held both their hands. Papa, is the bad lady gone? She's gone, little bird. Good. I didn't like her. Nobody did. They climbed into the wagon. Abigail was shaking with delayed shock. I can't believe that happened. I can't believe it's over. It's over. But what she said about Lucy, about people never accepting us. Some won't, some will. That's life. We can't control what people think. We can only control how we live. But Lucy's gonna grow up knowing her papa chose love over fear. She's gonna grow up watching us build something good despite opposition. That's a better lesson than hiding from hard people. Abigail wiped her eyes. You're right. You're always right. Not always. But on this, yeah, I'm right. They rode home in silence. Lucy fell asleep. The sun was setting, painting the sky orange and gold. Nate. Yeah. Thank you. For fighting for me. For standing up when it would have been easier to let me go. Wasn't about easy. Was about right. Still. Thank you. He squeezed her hand. Day after tomorrow, you'll be my wife. Official. No one can change that. I can't wait. Me neither. That night after Lucy was in bed, they sat by the fire. Close, but not touching. The air between them charged with anticipation. I'm scared, Abigail said quietly. Of what? Of being married. Of being a wife again after so long. Of being a mother to Lucy. Of failing you both. You won't fail. How do you know? Because failure comes from not trying. And you try at everything. You put your whole heart into everything you do. That's not failure. That's courage. She leaned against him. What if I can't be what you need? You already are. What if you regret this someday? I won't. You can't know that. He turned her to face him. Abigail, I spent 2 years regretting everything. Regretting that I couldn't save Sarah. Regretting that Lucy lost her mama. Regretting that I was still breathing when Sarah wasn't. I know regret. This ain't it. This is the opposite of regret. This is the first right thing I've done in 2 years. Tears spilled down her cheeks. I love you. I love you too. He kissed her. Slow. Deep. A promise of things to come. When they broke apart, she whispered, 2 more days. 2 more days, and you're mine forever. Forever's a long time. Not long enough. Tuesday arrived with fresh snow. Wedding Eve. Nate worked on finishing the barn. Tom and his sons helped hammering in the last boards hanging the doors. By noon, it was done. Good as new, Tom said, stepping back to admire their work. Better than new, Nate replied. Stronger foundation this time. Foundations always get stronger after weathering storms. That's true of more than barns. Tom clapped his shoulder. You're a good man, Nate Brennan. Abigail's lucky to have you. I'm the lucky one? That afternoon, Martha came to take Abigail to her house. Tradition says the bride and groom don't see each other the night before the wedding. You're staying with me, girl. Tom'll keep Nate company. But Lucy can stay with her papa tonight. Tomorrow she'll have a new mama. Tonight let her have her papa all to herself. Abigail looked at Nate. He nodded. Go on. Martha won't take no for an answer. She kissed Lucy's forehead. Be good for your papa. I will, Miss Abigail. Then Abigail turned to Nate. Tomorrow. Tomorrow. She left with Martha. The cabin felt empty without her. Lucy climbed into Nate's lap. Papa, are you happy? Very happy little bird. Do you miss Mama? The question hit him in the chest. Every day. Is it okay to love Miss Abigail too? It's more than okay. Your mama would want us to be happy, would want us to love again. Love doesn't replace love, Lucy. It just grows bigger. You can love Mama's memory and love Miss Abigail at the same time. Really? Really, your heart's big enough for both. Lucy hugged him tight. I'm glad Miss Abigail's staying. Me too, little bird. Me too. That evening, Tom came over with a bottle of whiskey. Last night a bachelorhood. Gotta mark it proper. They sat by the fire drinking and talking. Tom told stories about his own wedding 20 years ago. About the nervousness, the joy, the challenges of marriage. It ain't always easy, Tom said. Martha and me, we've had our rough patches. Times when money was tight or tempers were short. But we chose each other. Every day we keep choosing each other. That's what marriage is. Not one big choice, but 1,000 small choices every day to stay and love and work through whatever comes. That's good advice. That's survival advice. You and Abigail, you're starting with more challenges than most. Town's still divided about her. Money's tight after the barn. Winter's hard. But if you keep choosing each other, keep putting each other first, you'll weather it. I will. I am. I know you will. That's why I ain't worried about you too. They drank until late. When Tom finally left, Nate sat alone in the quiet cabin. Tomorrow, everything changed. Tomorrow, he became a husband again. Tomorrow, Lucy got a mother. Tomorrow, they became a family. He pulled out Sarah's Bible, opened it to the page she'd marked. Read her words again. Charm is deceptive, and beauty is fleeting, but a woman who fears the Lord is to be praised. He whispered to the silence. Sarah, I hope you approve. I hope you understand. I'll always love you, but I'm ready to love again. I'm ready to live again. The fire crackled. The wind whispered, and Nate felt for just a moment like Sarah was there, giving her blessing, telling him to be happy. He fell asleep in his chair, peaceful for the first time in years. Wednesday morning broke clear and bright. Wedding day. Nate woke early, nervous energy coursing through him. He washed, shaved, put on his best suit. Lucy wore her new dress, her hair in careful braids. Do I look pretty, Papa? You look beautiful, little bird. Miss Abigail's going to be so happy. I hope so. They rode into town at 10. The church was already full. People had come from neighboring ranches from town from miles around. Some came to support them. Some came out of curiosity. Some came hoping for drama. Reverend Caldwell met them at the door. Ready, Nate? Ready as I'll ever be. She's a good woman. You're doing right by her. I'm trying. They walked inside. The congregation rose. Nate walked to the front, Lucy beside him. His heart hammered. Then the doors opened again. Abigail entered. She wore the blue dress, simple but perfect. Her hair was arranged in soft curls. She carried wildflowers Martha must have saved from summer. She walked toward him slowly, her eyes never leaving his face. She was beautiful. Not in a showy way, in a real way, in a way that took his breath. When she reached him, he took her hand. You're stunning. You're biased. I'm honest. Reverend Caldwell began the ceremony. Nate barely heard the words. He was too focused on Abigail, on the tears in her eyes, on the smile playing at her lips, on the way her hand trembled in his. Do you, Nathaniel Brennan, take this woman to be your lawfully wedded wife? I do. And do you, Abigail Monroe, take this man to be your lawfully wedded husband? I do. Her voice was strong, clear, certain. Then by the power vested in me, I now pronounce you husband and wife. Nathaniel, you may kiss your bride. Nate cupped her face and kissed her. The congregation cheered. Lucy jumped up and down, and Abigail kissed him back like he was her whole world. When they broke apart, she whispered, We did it. We did it. They walked down the aisle together, hand in hand, Lucy between them. Outside, people threw rice and shouted congratulations. The reception at Martha's was loud and joyful. There was cake and music and dancing. Helen Ashford was nowhere to be seen. As evening fell, they drove home. Lucy was asleep in the back, exhausted from excitement. Nate and Abigail sat close, her head on his shoulder. "Mrs. Brennan," he said, "I like the sound of that." "So do I." They reached the ranch. The new barn stood solid. The cabin glowed with lamplight. Home. Nate carried Lucy inside and tucked her in. When he returned to the main room, Abigail was standing by the fire. She'd taken her hair down. It fell in waves over her shoulders. "Nervous?" he asked. "A little. Me too. Really. Really. It's been a long time. And I want this to be right. Want you to feel—" She crossed to him and put her fingers on his lips. "It's already right. Because it's us." He pulled her close. "I love you, Abigail Brennan. I love you, Nathaniel Brennan." They stood there holding each other while the fire burned low and the world outside faded away. Tomorrow would bring new challenges. Tomorrow would test them. But tonight, they were just two people who'd found each other against all odds. Two people who'd chosen love over fear. Two people who'd become family. And that was enough. That was everything. The first week of marriage passed like a dream that kept threatening to turn into a nightmare. Nate woke every morning surprised to find Abigail beside him, her dark hair spread across the pillow. Then he'd remember. She was real. She was his. They'd won. But winning didn't mean the fight was over. On Monday, a week after the wedding, Nate rode into town for supplies. Samuel Tucker greeted him with a grim face. "Nate, you need to hear this. Helen's been spreading stories. Says Abigail was seen with another man in St. Louis before she came here. Says she might already be married." Nate's vision went red. "That's a lie." "I know it. You know it. But folks are listening. Helen's got a way of making poison sound like concern." "Where is she?" "Don't know. But Nate, don't do nothing rash. That's what she wants. She wants you to lose your temper so she can claim you're violent. Unstable." Nate forced himself to breathe. "Then what do I do? You live your life. You be happy. You show everyone that her lies don't touch you. That's how you win." It was good advice. Nate knew it was good advice. But riding home, he felt rage simmering. How long would this go on? How long would Helen try to destroy them? He found Abigail in the garden planting early vegetables. Lucy played nearby with her carved bird. They looked peaceful, happy. He didn't want to shatter that with Helen's poison. But Abigail saw his face. "What happened?" "Nothing." "Nate," he sighed. "Helen's spreading more lies. Says you might already be married. Says you were seen with a man in St. Louis." Abigail's face went white. "There was a man. James Wilson. We were engaged briefly before my father died. He broke it off when he learned about the debts. Is that what she's twisting?" "Probably." "We were never married, Nate. The engagement lasted 2 months. He ended it publicly. Everyone in St. Louis knew." "I believe you. But the town won't. They'll assume the worst. They always do." Lucy looked up. "Mama Abigail, why are people mean to you?" Mama Abigail. The child had started calling her that 3 days after the wedding. Abigail had cried for an hour. "Some people are just mean, sweetheart," Abigail said gently. "It's not about me. It's about them. I don't like them. We don't have to like everyone. We just have to be kind anyway." Lucy returned to her playing. Nate pulled Abigail close. "We could leave. Start over somewhere Helen's poison can't reach. Run away. Strategic retreat." "No." Her voice was firm. "We stay. We built something here. We're not letting her chase us away. It might get worse before it gets better." Then it gets worse. We'll survive it. He kissed her forehead. You're stronger than I am. I've had more practice surviving. That night, Lucy had a nightmare. Abigail reached her first, scooping her up, rocking her. Shh, baby girl. It's okay. Mama's here. Lucy clung to her. I dreamed you left, like my first mama. I dreamed you went away and didn't come back. I'm not going anywhere, I promise. But what if the mean people make you leave? Abigail looked at Nate over Lucy's head. He joined them on the bed, wrapping his arms around both. Nobody's making anybody leave. We're a family now. Families stick together. Even when people are mean. Especially then. Lucy settled between them, her breathing evening out. They stayed that way until dawn, a tangle of limbs and love and fierce protection. 2 weeks after the wedding, Tom Cooper came riding hard to the ranch. Nate was mending fence. He saw Tom's face and knew something was wrong. What is it? Helen's filed another petition, this time with the territorial government. She's claiming Abigail entered Wyoming under false pretenses. She's got some bureaucrat looking into whether Abigail's presence here is legal. On what grounds? She's claiming Abigail might be fleeing dead in Missouri, that she might have outstanding warrants. It's all lies, but the territorial governor's office has to investigate any formal complaint. When? Agent's coming next week. He'll interview you both. Interview others in town. If he finds cause, he can order Abigail to return to Missouri pending resolution. Nate's world tilted. They can separate us. If they believe she's a fugitive, yeah, even temporarily while they investigate. She ain't a fugitive. She paid every debt she could, left honorably. Then prove it. You got documentation letters from creditors. Anything showing she settled her affairs legally. She might. I'll ask. That night, Abigail searched her carpetbag with shaking hands. She pulled out papers, letters from lawyers, final accounting from her father's estate, receipts showing debts paid. I kept everything, she said. Every piece of paper. I knew someone might question me someday. Nate looked through them. They were thorough, detailed. They showed exactly what she'd told him. She'd sold everything, paid what she could, left the rest to be settled by the estate. This is good. This proves you left legally. Will it be enough? It'll have to be. The territorial agent arrived on Tuesday. His name was William Frost, and he carried himself with the self-importance of small men given big authority. He set up in the courthouse, interviewing people one by one. Helen went first. She was in there an hour. When she emerged, her smile was smug. Nate and Abigail went next. Frost sat behind the judge's desk, papers spread before him. Mr. and Mrs. Brennan, please sit. They sat. Nate took Abigail's hand. Frost didn't look up. Mrs. Brennan, I've received serious allegations about your past. I need you to answer some questions truthfully. Lying to a territorial agent is a crime. I understand. Were you engaged to a man named James Wilson in St. Louis? Yes, briefly. He ended the engagement when my father's financial troubles became known. And were there any legal entanglements from that engagement? Any contracts or obligations? No, it was a private engagement. No legal documents. Did you leave St. Louis with unpaid debts? My father had debts. I paid what I could from the sale of his property and our possessions. The estate lawyers handled the rest. I have documentation. Abigail produced her papers. Frost read through them slowly. Too slowly, like he was hoping to find something damning. Finally, he looked up. These appear in order. They are in order. Mrs. Ashford claims you misrepresented yourself to Mr. Brennan to secure passage west. Mrs. Ashford is lying. That's a serious accusation. So are hers, and mine has the benefit of being true. Frost's eyes narrowed. You're very bold for someone in your position. My position, I'm a legally married woman, sitting in a courthouse being interrogated based on lies told by a jealous rival. What position should I take meek submission to false accusations? Abigail, Nate warned quietly. No. She leaned forward. Mr. Frost, I came to Wyoming legally. I married legally. I've committed no crime. If Mrs. Ashford has actual evidence of wrongdoing, let her produce it. Otherwise, this is harassment. Frost's face reddened. I'll determine what this is. Then determine it. But do it based on facts, not spite. The interview lasted another 30 minutes. Frost asked about her teaching position, her father's business, her reasons for leaving. Abigail answered everything calmly, thoroughly, with documentation to support every claim. Finally, Frost dismissed them. I'll make my report to the governor's office within the week. Outside, Nate turned to Abigail. That was risky, talking to him like that. I'm tired of being polite to people trying to destroy me. I know, but we need him on our side. We need him to do his job, which is investigating facts, not validating Helen's vendetta. She was right, but Nate worried. Worried that her boldness would be seen as arrogance. Worried that Frost would side with Helen out of principle. That week crawled by. They worked, they ate. They went through the motions. But tension hung over everything like smoke. On Friday, Frost called them back to the courthouse. The whole town seemed to be there. Helen sat in front, her face carefully neutral. Frost stood. After thorough investigation, I find no evidence that Mrs. Abigail Brennan entered Wyoming illegally or under false pretenses. Her documentation is in order. Her accounts of her past are verified. The petition against her is dismissed. Relief flooded through Nate so strong he almost collapsed. But Frost wasn't finished. However, he looked at Helen. I also find that this petition was filed in bad faith. Mrs. Ashford knowingly made false accusations to harass Mrs. Brennan. This is a waste of territorial resources and an abuse of legal process. Helen stood. That's outrageous. I had legitimate concerns. You had jealousy and spite. I've interviewed 15 people in this town, Mrs. Ashford. All 15 told the same story. You've been conducting a campaign of harassment against the Brennans since Mrs. Brennan arrived. Well, it stops now. You can't tell me. I can recommend charges be filed against you for filing false reports. I can recommend the territorial government investigate you for criminal harassment. Is that what you want? Helen's face went from red to white. No. Then this ends. Today. Now. You leave the Brennans alone. You stop spreading rumors. You stop filing petitions. Am I clear? You can't control what I say in private. I can make your life very difficult if you don't comply. Test me if you want. See what happens. They stared at each other. Finally, Helen looked away. Fine. Good. This matter is closed. Helen swept from the courthouse, her few remaining supporters trailing behind. The rest of the crowd erupted in conversation. Tom clapped Nate's shoulder. It's over. It's really over. Is it? Nate looked at the door Helen had exited through. She agreed too easily. Frost scared her. She knows she's lost. Nate wanted to believe that, but something in his gut said this wasn't finished. They rode home in silence. Lucy chattered happily, but Nate barely heard her. Abigail was quiet too, her face thoughtful. You feel it too, she said. Feel what? That this isn't over. He nodded. Helen ain't the type to give up. So what do? We wait, we watch, we protect what's ours. That night, Nate slept poorly. Every sound woke him. Every creak of the cabin set his nerves on edge. Beside him, Abigail tossed and turned. I can't sleep either, she whispered. I keep thinking she's planning something. Maybe we're being paranoid. Maybe. Or maybe we're being smart. Dawn came gray and cold. Nate went to do morning chores. The horses were restless, stamping and nickering. He checked the barn carefully. Nothing seemed wrong, but the animals knew something. He was walking back to the cabin when he smelled it. Smoke. Not wood smoke from the chimney. Something else. Something wrong. He ran toward the cabin. Smoke was seeping from under the door. Abigail, Lucy. He crashed through the door. Smoke filled the main room. Fire licked up the curtains. The table was engulfed. Abigail! Her voice came from the bedroom. We're here. We can't get out. Nate grabbed a blanket, soaked it in the water barrel, threw it over his head. He pushed through the smoke to the bedroom. Abigail had Lucy wrapped in blankets. The child was crying. The door's blocked, Abigail said. Something's against it from outside. Someone had barred them in. This wasn't an accident. This was murder. Nate ran to the window. Too small for him, but maybe big enough for them. He smashed the glass with his elbow. Out now. Abigail lifted Lucy through. The child dropped into the snow outside, screaming. Abigail started to climb through. Behind them, the roof groaned. Hurry! She was halfway through when the beam fell. It missed her by inches, sending up a shower of sparks. She scrambled out. Nate followed his coat, catching fire. He rolled in the snow, extinguishing it. They huddled together, watching the cabin burn. Everything they owned, everything they'd built, gone. Lucy sobbed. Where will we live, Papa? I don't know, little bird. Tom Cooper came riding hard, drawn by the smoke. Good God, what happened? Someone barred the door from outside. Someone tried to kill us. Tom's face went hard. Helen! Can't prove it. Don't need to prove it. Everyone knows. Other neighbors arrived. They tried to fight the fire, but it was too late. By noon, nothing remained but smoking ruins. Martha wrapped Abigail and Lucy in blankets. You're coming home with us. All of you. Martha, we can't impose. It ain't imposing. You need shelter. We got room. That's the end of it. They spent that night at the Cooper's house. Lucy slept between Nate and Abigail, whimpering in her sleep. Neither adult slept at all. She tried to kill us, Abigail whispered. She actually tried to kill us. I know. What do? We survive. We rebuild. We show her she can't break us. Nate, I can't do this anymore. Can't live in fear. Can't watch Lucy suffer. Maybe we should leave. Maybe? No. His voice was steel. We don't run. We don't let her win. What if next time she succeeds? What if next time Lucy doesn't get out? He had no answer for that. The fear was real. Legitimate. How did you fight someone willing to commit murder? The next morning, Sheriff Morrison showed up at the Cooper's house. Nate, I need to talk to you about the fire. Finally gonna investigate. Morrison's face was grave. I went to the site this morning, found evidence of arson, coal oil again, and I found something else. What? A kerchief. Woman's kerchief, monogrammed. Nate's pulse quickened. Whose kid? Helen Ashford's? The world stopped. You sure? Her initials, her fabric. I recognize it. She wore one just like it to church last week. So you gonna arrest her? Morrison shifted uncomfortably. It's complicated. How is attempted murder complicated? Because she's claiming it was stolen, says someone took it from her house last month, says someone's trying to frame her. That's convenient. That's her story, and without more proof I can't arrest her based solely on a kerchief that might have been stolen. Nate wanted to hit something. So she gets away with it. I didn't say that. I'm investigating. But I need more evidence. How much more? She burned my barn, burned my house, tried to kill my family. What more do you need? I need something that ties her directly to the crime. A witness, a confession, something. And if she tries again before you get that... Morrison had no answer. After he left, Tom pulled Nate aside. We can't wait for the law. We need to handle this ourselves. What are you suggesting? I'm suggesting we pay Helen a visit. Make it clear what happens if she tries again. That's vigilante justice. That's survival. The law ain't protecting you, Nate, so we protect you. That afternoon, Tom, Nate, Samuel Tucker, and 4 other men rode to Helen Ashford's house. It was a big place, fancy on the edge of town. They knocked. Helen's housekeeper answered. Mrs. Ashford ain't receiving visitors. She'll receive us, Tom said, pushing inside. They found Helen in her parlor drinking tea like she didn't have a care in the world. She looked up with mock surprise. Gentlemen, what an unexpected visit. Cut the act, Helen, Tom said. We know you burned Nate's cabin. Do you, and how do you know that? Your kerchief was found at the scene. Yes, I heard. Terrible that someone stole my property and used it to frame me. I've filed a report with the sheriff. You're lying. Prove it. Nate stepped forward. Helen, I'm done playing games. You've tried everything to destroy us. It ain't working. We're still here. Still married. Still together. Give up? Or what? You'll hurt me. 6 men against 1 woman. That'll look wonderful for your reputation. We ain't gonna hurt you, Tom said quietly. But we are gonna make you a promise. You come near the Brennans again. You try anything else, and we'll make sure everyone in this territory knows what you are. We'll write letters to every newspaper. We'll contact every business associate. We'll destroy your reputation so thoroughly you won't be able to show your face anywhere. Helen's composure cracked. You wouldn't dare. Try us. You've built your whole identity on respectability, on being above reproach. We'll tear that down. We'll make you infamous. I'll sue you for slander. Truth ain't slander. And we got truth aplenty. About Harold's gambling, about his prostitutes, about the bribes he paid, about the people he cheated. You really want all that public? Helen went pale. You're bluffing. Test us, Samuel said. Please. I've been wanting to publish some stories about your family for years. You give me cause, I'll fill a whole newspaper with them. Helen looked at each man in turn, saw they meant it. Finally, she spoke, her voice tight with fury. Fine. You win. I'll leave them alone. Swear it. I swear. On my family's name. I'll leave the Brennans alone. Good. Because if anything else happens, anything at all, we come back. And next time, we bring the whole town. They left. Outside, Nate turned to Tom. Think she meant it. She meant it. We hurt her where it counts. Her pride. Her reputation. She won't risk that again. I hope you're right. A week passed. Nothing happened. No fires, no petitions, no rumors. Helen kept to herself, barely leaving her house. Nate and his family stayed with the Coopers while the community rebuilt their cabin. Men showed up every day with lumber nails labor. In 2 weeks, the cabin was standing again. Smaller than before, but solid. Community takes care of its own, Tom said, hammering in the last board. They moved back in. Abigail cried when she saw it. It's perfect. It's home, Nate replied. That night, their first night back, Lucy was finally sleeping soundly. Nate and Abigail sat by the fire. Do you think it's really over? She asked. I think Helen's scared enough to stay away, and I think we've proven we can survive anything she throws at us. We lost everything twice. And we rebuilt twice. That's the point. She can burn buildings. She can't burn what's between us. Abigail leaned against him. I love you. I love you too. Even though I brought all this trouble. You didn't bring trouble. You brought life. Trouble was already here. We just had to face it. What about Lucy? She's been through so much. Lucy's stronger than we think, and she's got 2 parents who love her fierce. That's more than most kids got. 2 parents. Abigail smiled. I like the sound of that. So do I. Spring came slowly to Wyoming that year. The snow melted reluctantly, but when it finally went green, Things pushed up through the mud. Abigail planted a garden. Lucy helped her small hands patting seeds into soil. One morning, Nate was fixing the fence when he saw a rider approaching. His hand moved to his rifle. Then he recognized the horse. Tom Cooper. "Nate, you need to hear this." "What?" "Helen's leaving, selling the house, moving to Denver." Nate's heart lifted. She's really going. Can't stand the shame, I reckon. Whole town knows what she did, even if they can't prove it. She's become what she tried to make Abigail. An outcast. When? End of the month. Nate walked back to the cabin, found Abigail hanging laundry. Helen's leaving, moving to Denver. She turned clothespin in hand. Really? Really? She dropped the clothespin and covered her mouth with both hands. It's over. It's really truly over. It's over. She launched herself at him. He caught her spinning her around. Lucy came running from the house. Why are you happy? Because the bad times are over, little bird. Because we won. We won what? Everything that matters. That night, the three of them sat at their table, eating stew Abigail had made. Simple food in a simple home. But it was theirs, earned, built with their own hands, and protected with their own courage. Papa, Lucy said suddenly, I need to tell you something. What's that? I don't remember my first mama's face anymore. I remember she sang. I remember she smelled like bread. But I can't see her face. Her eyes filled with tears. Is that bad? Abigail reached across the table, taking Lucy's hand. It's not bad, sweetheart. It's just life. Memories fade. That's natural. Your first mama wouldn't want you to feel guilty about that. But I don't want to forget her. You won't forget her, Nate said. She's in your smile, in your kindness, in the way you love people fierce. You carry her with you every day, even if you can't see her face. And having a new mama doesn't mean forgetting the first one, Abigail added. It just means your heart grew bigger, big enough for both. Lucy thought about this. Then she smiled. I'm glad you're my mama now. I'm glad too, baby girl. After Lucy went to bed, Nate found something he'd been working on for weeks. He brought it to Abigail. I made you something. It was a wooden box. Simple but beautiful, with her initials carved in the lid. Inside, he'd lined it with fabric and put her most precious things. Her grandmother's sewing kit, her mother's Bible, her teaching certificate, the letters he'd written her before she came west. Nate, her voice broke. This is beautiful. You said the things that matter aren't the things you carry in a bag. But I wanted you to have a place to keep the things that matter most. So even if everything else burns, you got these. She cried. He held her. And outside the stars came out over Wyoming, bright and endless. Months passed. Summer turned to fall. The garden produced more than they could eat. Abigail preserved vegetables, made jams prepared for winter. Lucy started learning her letters properly. The ranch prospered. One October evening, Abigail came to Nate with news. I'm pregnant. He stared at her. You're sure? I'm sure. Joy exploded through him. We're having a baby! We're having a baby! He lifted her off her feet, spinning her. Lucy's gonna be a big sister. Think she'll be happy? Are you joking? She's been asking for a baby brother or sister since I told her we were getting married. They told Lucy that night. She shrieked with excitement. A baby. A real baby. A real baby, Abigail confirmed. When? Next spring? Lucy counted on her fingers. That's forever. It'll go faster than you think. That winter was hard, but they weathered it together. Nate hunted. Abigail cooked and sewed and grew round with child. Lucy helped with everything, taking her role as big sister seriously before the baby was even born. In March, when the snow was just starting to melt, Abigail went into labor. Martha Cooper came to help. Tom took Nate and Lucy to his house. Women's business, he said firmly. We stay out of the way. Nate paced for 12 hours. Lucy fell asleep. Tom kept him company, telling stories to distract him. Finally, just before dawn, someone knocked. Martha stuck her head in. You can come now. Nate ran to the cabin. Abigail was propped up in bed, exhausted but radiant. In her arms was a tiny bundle. It's a boy, she said. A healthy boy. Nate approached slowly, hardly believing. She pulled back the blanket. The baby had dark hair and a red face. His tiny fist waved in the air. He's perfect, Nate whispered. Wanna hold him? I'm scared I'll break him. You won't. She placed the baby in his arms. Nate looked down at his son and felt something fundamental shift in his chest. This was new life, new hope, proof that they'd survived and built something lasting. What should we name him? Abigail asked. Nate thought. Then William, after your father. Give him a chance to be the man your father couldn't be. Tears streamed down her face. You'd do that? Your father made mistakes, but he raised a daughter of courage and honor. That counts for something. Let's give his name a second chance, same as we got. William Brennan. I love it. Lucy burst in, Martha following apologetically. I couldn't stop her. It's fine. Nate held out his arm. Lucy climbed onto the bed carefully. Lucy, meet your brother. William. She stared at the tiny face with wonder. He's so small. You were this small once. Really? Really? Lucy touched one tiny hand. The baby's fingers curled around hers. He likes me. Course he likes you. You're his big sister. That spring, a letter arrived from Denver. Nate opened it cautiously. It was from Helen. Mr. Brennan, it read. I'm writing to apologize. Not because I expect forgiveness, but because you deserve the acknowledgement. I did everything you accused me of. The barn, the cabin, the lies, all of it. I was consumed by bitterness and jealousy. I saw in Abigail everything I'd lost: hope, courage, the ability to love despite pain. I wanted to destroy that because I couldn't have it myself. I was wrong. Profoundly, unforgivably wrong. I hope you and your family find peace. You deserve it more than anyone I know. Helen Ashford. Nate handed the letter to Abigail. She read it, then walked to the fireplace and dropped it in. They watched it burn together. Should we have kept it? Nate asked. As evidence? Evidence of what? We already know what she did. And she's gone. Let it burn. Let all of it burn. You're more forgiving than I am. I'm not forgiving her. I'm releasing her. There's a difference. Holding on to anger at Helen is like drinking poison and expecting her to die. She's gone. We're here. We're happy. That's the best revenge. Nate pulled her close. When did you get so wise? When I realized happiness is a choice. We can choose to let the past haunt us, or we can choose to build something better. I choose better. So do I. Years passed. William grew into a sturdy boy with his mother's dark eyes and his father's stubborn streak. Lucy became a fine young woman who taught at the school in town. The ranch prospered. Nate and Abigail grew old together, their hair going gray, their faces lining with laughter and weather. One evening when Nate was 55 and Abigail was 52, they sat on the porch watching the sunset. Their children and grandchildren played in the yard. The barn, the third one built after a lightning strike, took the second, stood solid. You ever regret it? Nate asked. Answering that advertisement, coming here in rags. Not for 1 second. Even with everything that happened, the fires and the accusations and the fear. Especially because of all that. Easy lives don't teach you anything, Nate. Hard lives teach you what you're made of. And what we're made of is strong enough to survive anything. We survived more than most. We did, and we built more than most too. She gestured to the children. That's not just blood. That's love. That's choice. That's everything that matters. He took her hand, the same hand he'd held that Christmas Eve morning when she stepped off the stage in her patched dress. the same hand that had shaken with fear and gripped him in courage and worn his wedding ring for 30 years. "I'd do it all again," he said. "So would I. Even the hard parts. Especially the hard parts. They made us who we are." The sun set, painting the sky gold and orange and red. Their grandchildren's laughter rose into the evening air, and Nate Brennan, who'd once thought his capacity for love had died with his first wife, realized he'd been wrong. Love didn't die. It transformed. It grew. It multiplied. It found new homes and new forms and new ways to exist. He'd chosen a woman in rags on Christmas Eve, and she'd given him everything that mattered. Not wealth, not ease, but courage, partnership, purpose, family. He'd seen her worth when others saw only poverty. And that choice, that single moment of looking past the surface to see the truth beneath, had changed everything. Worth wasn't measured in gold or fine clothes or respectability. Worth was measured in character, in courage, in the ability to stand back up after being knocked down, in the choice to love despite fear, in the decision to build despite those who wanted to destroy. Abigail Monroe. Brennan had arrived with nothing but her dignity and her truth, and she'd built a legacy that would last generations. That was worth. That was everything.